All right, so if we're going to talk about interview stuff, I figured that it shouldn't just be English teacher Nick Navarez, so I brought a guest along, seen over here,
Hi guys, Lauren DeCaprio, ceramics, and also a supporter of your English teacher.
and life. All right, so the first thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to respond to a couple user questions. And so the first user question comes from Twitter from an India E816. And India asks how exactly you weave stories into your questions. So, India, one of the things that I would say that's most important is you have those core set of stories that you want to tell. And any way you look at it, you're going to talk about how you are a peer ambassador on Del Norte's campus. And that might answer a variety of different things. And so when I ask you about your desire to work in a team, you see this as a great opportunity to talk about multiple different ambassadors from a variety of different skills. And you always want to set it up in a problem, action, result format. So on one of your meetings, you encountered this particular issue, and then here is a set of stuff that you did to right the situation, and then ultimately what that resolution is, so that when they look at your resume, they see ambassadors wasn't something just to get you into college, but it actually developed a set of overall life skills. Mr. Caprio, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I think what's also important is just that you're showing your personality in your stories. They want to know what you've done in your life that somehow relates to the job. But I also think that most of an interview is who you are. And so um, smiling and having it be that's your opportunity, I think, in those questions to have it be more conversational and less structured and less sort of rigid. And so, my advice in those moments where you can to allow for who you are and sort of your personality to show through without being too worried of a perfect answer.
Yeah, and so that transfers over to another question that we got from Instagram from the user Maggie underscore B, former Del Norte student, current high school teacher right now. And so Maggie asked about how to address biggest weaknesses. And I think in general, Maggie, one of the things as it relates to weaknesses is knowing what your weakness is before you go in, and also it being something that you're both aware of and are working through. So for me, the weakness that I typically go through is I really struggle with delegation and with trusting my teammates. And so I'm always going to try to highlight how I've worked on that. And I think more than anything, an employer isn't looking for a perfect candidate. They're looking for someone who's self-aware and has an ability to reflect on the areas where they need to grow. Mr. Caprio?
Yeah, I think the kind of common weakness is to find something that's also a strength, but you want to be careful there because, like Mr. Navarre said, you want it to be something
I
that
work
you're
too
aware of,
hard. I care too much.
right? And or find something that is something you're working on, but ultimately, once you work through, is going to benefit the company. I think that's something that you might cater to that company if it's a detail oriented type job. Being really caught up in the details can sometimes get you behind in a project, and now you're working on wanting to make a priority list or something that the company then goes, oh wow, okay, that's a good problem to have without being cheesy, really.
Yeah. So what we're going to look to do now is many of you think Mr. Caprio is just a very gifted artist, designer of my wedding invitations and daughter's birthday announcements.
And most of the t-shirts that you wear.
Ooh, every Del Norte t-shirt except this one, Del Norte
Yeah.
basketball. That chunky block font would not have been her. That being said, in her previous life, Ms. DiCaprio did a lot of hiring in a variety of different positions. So she's going to play the role of the hiring director, and I'm going to play the role of the candidate as we talk through two situations for you. The first one we're going to look at is showing up, when you get to the interview and what's going to be involved in that process. And then the second part, that first question you're going to face, walk me through your resume, let me know about your job experience, whichever way that they phrase it. So for the first question, we're going to look to Ms. DiCaprio as the hiring manager, the HR rep, as she gives you a sense of what she's looking for in a candidate when they show up for a job.
Right. Of course, goes without saying. Um, being early. Slightly early is on time, and anything on time is late.
How early is
Preparedness is the first thing that you could show that you care. I always like to tell a quick story about Nordstrom's. If you go and ask for a pen when you're filling out an application at Nordstrom's, they will give you a red pen, and any application in a red pen is automatically void because it shows that you were unprepared. And bringing a pen is a very easy thing to do, and you should do it. Obviously, how you dress. Um, you want to be aware of the work environment. Showing up with flip flops on or spaghetti strap top or something obviously is not showing respect for the position. So 5 to 10 minutes early minimum, and think about the tools that you might need to accomplish the task at hand. Be mindful of the things that you're doing in the waiting room while waiting, eating, checking your phone, texting your friends. Even though you think that you're just waiting to be let in, you're being watched the entire time. And so just be aware of all the things that you're doing, your body language, while you're waiting for your opportunity.
Yeah, that's the thing that some of the parent interviewers who come in and help in the interview process at the end have spoken to, that they see a candidate from the moment they walk into the building and they're judging them before the interview. So you might want to consider putting that phone on silent, leaving the phone in the car, just moving on from that process. A big piece of advice I could give to gentlemen: I'm a very sweaty individual in general. So as much as the sport coat might be a sweaty look, at least it's going to cover you up and kind of keep you self-contained in there. And I think one of the classic moves, a lot of you are nervous to reach that hand out and handshake. Obviously right now handshakes are a little different in the
Yeah.
scenario, but I think the biggest power move is when you go to stand up, it's the two hands flat on your legs and just push up off your legs, and you'll get at least that dry rub of your hands off as you go in, and make that nice handshake. And what you have to recognize is that dialogue can become kind of stilted and weird. A lot of people like to lead with the "nice to meet you." I don't know who you are, so make sure that it's "Lauren, nice to meet you. Nick Navarez. I appreciate this opportunity."
Thank you for having me.
And remember Lauren's name so that you can Google her at the company, find her email, and follow up with an email afterwards thanking her for the opportunity to interview with her. So the last thing we want to address is how you walk through your resume. So your resume is that one-page document in general, and they're probably looking for about a minute to 2 minutes at your age in the walk me through your resume. So you can start bottom to top, top to bottom, but what I would suggest is that you're ideally ending with the best piece of your detail. And what's been a challenge for some kids is your life up to this point has been Boy Scouts or football or cheerleading or volunteerism through NHS. And it's amazing all the work that you've done. And so you talk about your 200 hours to receive your silver award in Girl Scouts for a minute, and then talk about your internship at a lab for 20 seconds. So you really want to focus on the key details on that resume that sell you to the company. And so for me, that would have meant that I would have researched the company beforehand, known what they were looking for, read the job posting, and really considered what they wanted to see out of me, and make sure that when I'm talking about the stuff on my resume, I'm very much tailoring it towards that. That's a big focus, how my skills translate to what you want. So as a person doing the hiring, what are you listening for during that point in my walkthrough of the resume?
Yeah, I would say that one thing I would just give as a note is remind yourself that your resume is your life. I know in an awkward, uncomfortable, very scary position at an interview, your natural desire is just to look down and be reminded. But this should be the easiest part because it's everything you've done in your whole life. And here's another place that even though they're wanting you to go through your education and life experiences and then experience as it pertains to the job, remember that you could show your personality during this time too. It's a fun thing that you've been a dog walker or a babysitter or a captain of the football team. that's an exciting part of your time. So it would make sense that during those times you smiled and you thought of it in a way that was exciting rather than very nervous or uncomfortable with the idea that those were your experiences. So there are times in an interview that should be more structured and maybe a little bit more organized. And then there are times with, some of your life experiences that it's okay to, I think, show some of your personality and allow yourself to do that. They're going to learn more about you through that opportunity.
And in this weird era of electronic communication and things like that, you still want to model all those particular things. Like I'm at the dining room table in my house and I'm sitting up, I'm leaning forward, I'm making eye contact with Miss DeCaprio in the monitor and nodding along so that she knows that I'm listening. And also so I don't just creepily sit over here in this box and just stare absently. So as we look to conclude, we would love to spend more time answering your questions and just lecturing on knowledge. If you ever want to pop in on the Zoom and be a participant and ask a question with us live, we would love to have that. Definitely go do your ceramics assignment and follow DiCaprio Art Adventures over here.
You'll
And
learn things.
you will, about symmetry and color palettes. There's a lot to learn over this time. And if you access this on My Connect, congratulations on viewing it there. If you're following me on Instagram or Twitter like a normal person, that's probably going to be the way I send more information. So thanks for putting up with two really dorky people, and we'll talk to you guys later.